learn from my mistake. Are you tired of hearing the same old advice when it comes to real estate? Do you want to learn from the biggest and baddest mistakes in the industry? Then welcome to Learn from My Mistake, the podcast that brings you real estate professionals from all over, sharing the biggest blunders and how to avoid them. I'm one of your hosts, Jake Remillard, and I'm joined by my partner, Baginski. We're here to give you the inside scoop on what not to do in the real estate game. From brokers to investors, we've got it all. We're not just here to tell you about our guest failures, though. We're here to help you learn from them so you can make the right moves when it counts. So buckle up and get ready to hear some juicy stories and expert advice you won't find anywhere else. This is Learn from My Mistake. New episodes drop every week. Don't miss out. Learn from my Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are here with Learn from My Mistake, Season 2, Episode 3. I'm your host, Jake Remillard. I'm here with my partner, Baginski, and today we are being joined by fellow veteranpreneur, Jeremy Beland. What's going on, Jeremy?
Hey, not much, man. Happy to be here. Love the intro, dude. That was awesome. Love it. Fun.
Thanks.
Jake, he has a voice for radio.
Oh, totally. That's a voice for it as well. No, just right. Oh, no, that was great. Great intro. I loved it.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, yeah. Hey, look, tell the listeners, catch us up to speed. Who are you?
First of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a real honor to be here today, you guys. I do really appreciate it. My name's Jeremy Beland. I'm up here in New Hampshire. You can probably hear my Boston accent come out in time. I'm only about a 45-minute drive north of Boston. Don't know why I have such a thick Boston accent, but I do. So up here in New Hampshire, my wife and I, we started our real estate journey effectively together in January 2017. I can tell you a little bit about that story. But what we've done is, we started with our first deal in March 2017. We've gone on to do over 400 plus and growing off-market acquisitions as of today. We've played in multiple markets. New Hampshire, Massachusetts has always been our main primary market. Now we're in the Treasure Coast in Florida with the great Dan Toback. And we're specifically geared towards acquiring off-market properties. Our exit strategies, although we started out as wholesaling, not really just wholesale anymore. We wholesale, we wholetail, we flip, we buy and hold, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, you name it. We leverage the MLS a lot in both of our markets to get the most money out of each deal. But that's basically what we do up here. And so we specialize in off-market acquisitions.
Love it. That one-stop shop for these real estate investors, man. I love the model.
I love it too. Yeah. Back in the day, I loved wholesaling. It was how it was easy to get started in that business. I'm probably going to piss some people off. You said this isn't a PG thing here. So
yeah, go for it. Piss them off.
I started to get really pissed off with buyers over time. So I wanted to have more control over my properties that I worked really hard for and, put a lot of time and effort and money into acquiring. And I felt like buyers just gave me no respect, gave the deals no respect. And eventually I just wanted to make sure that rather than just giving them sweet deals and leaving too much money on the table, that I, took more control, started taking down properties once I learned about private money and everything else. And, now I basically wholesale the deals that I don't want. And I keep everything else that I do, whether it's a flip or to keep as a rental.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, you started in 2017. How did you jump into real estate? Tell us a little bit of the backstory. How did you get here?
So let me tell you my story, and I appreciate. I'll try to be quick. I tend to be long-winded. We're Boston people, right? Well, you're from New York. You get it, right?
I get it.
Go get you some coffee and we'll talk about it. My journey actually started in about 2008, 2009. So as a kid, we grew up in New Hampshire. My mom and I were basically homeless. She remarried a guy. We got into lower middle class suburbia life, which life was pretty good for me as a kid. And about 13, 14, my stepfather at the time decided to leave his job in corporate America and start a business. And doing so, he ended up losing everything. We ended up going to foreclosure, woke up one day, all our cars were repossessed. We went through bankruptcy. Next thing you know, for the rest of my teenage years, we were basically living from one house to another house every 6 to 12 months. I went to 3 different high schools. became a real bad, troubled youth, got into drugs, drinking, got arrested, all the fun stuff, right? But somehow, when I started getting into working out in my late teens, I started to right the ship. And then somehow in my early 20s, I found myself a sales job. And I was high-rise window cleaning in Boston at the time, had no money, no credit, got myself a sales job, had to go out and get my first tie and jacket for the interview, and I wore that same tie and shirt for like the first 2 months until I could afford another one. But I got a job selling printers and copiers and stuff like that, and I was pretty decent at it. And then I found myself into another sales job after that. Next thing you know, I'm in my mid-20s, I'm married, I'm buying a house, and I'm living the dream that I always wanted. I ended up having like this nice house in New Hampshire. I had a job where I was making 6 figures, bought new cars for my wife and I. We had 2 little kids. We just bought a camper. I was like, my God, this is like the dream come true. Because as a kid, I was poor, right? And I went through all these times, and I never thought I was going to be successful because I never graduated high school, never went to college and all that stuff. And then as I started to learn more about sales, I started getting the entrepreneurial bug right around my early 30s, started looking into multi-level marketing. And a friend of mine said, hey, here's a course, a weekend seminar, Donald Trump University. So that was where I went into it. Right back then, year 2009.
I was part of Trump University too. I got it.
Did you get a check from the lawsuit like I did?
I don't even think they called me for the lawsuit, but I used to talk to one of their one of their coaches like every week, and they were crap. But anyway.
So that was kind of my journey. And then, I read like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Back then, we didn't have podcasts like this great one. So when I was doing my sales job, I had to go to the library, get CDs. And, I just started learning about personal development and real estate and everything else. And I was just getting ready to start my real estate journey. I was learning from Peter Conti and a few other people. And I was like, this is great. So, this is like 2009. And then I left my job that year to another job. And like within less than a year, the recession happened. So some of us who are listening here probably don't remember the recession 2009, 2010. That wasn't just a housing crisis. That was a job crisis in the country as well. And I got punched in the teeth really, really bad. We just put an addition on our house. I had, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I went from having a 6-figure job, $80,000 in equity, to a year later having no job, couldn't find a job for the life of me. My house was upside down, $150,000 in equity then. And this all happened so fast. And back again, Google really wasn't a thing in 2009. We used to have these big fat yellow things called phone books. And now every day I would call and try to find myself jobs. And I couldn't because I was a high school dropout, had no college degree, and everybody else was out of work then, right? So all those people who had higher paying jobs, who were highly educated, were taking jobs at a lesser value just to survive like everybody else. So that really pushed me down. So at that time, the only option I had, because I couldn't afford to go back to school, was to join the military. An opportunity came up to join the Air Force, and I was going to learn about cybersecurity. My goal was to go in, learn about network security. I was going to come out and get a sales job doing it. But during that time, I was losing money really, really fast. My house was they were getting ready to foreclose on me. I was getting ready to go into bankruptcy, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm repeating what my family did as a young kid. I felt like a complete failure. I'm like, my kids, I can't provide for my family. Went into this great depression, had to go on depression meds and everything. I was getting suicidal. I was like really, really dark place in my life. And
how old are you at this point, Jeremy?
33.
Okay.
33, and just on the top of the world, and all of a sudden just kicked down a reality, and I didn't know what to do. And back then the mortgage companies, they didn't have loan remodifications and refinance options. You were freaking screwed. And
there was no COVID debt forgiveness or
there was nothing.
Either,
no,
right?
no, I wish there was.
Get out the house.
And the mortgage companies were selling left and right or closing because they were all fraudulent and going out of business. So all of a sudden I had a new mortgage company. We started to work on some forgiveness plan, and then they were gone. And then the next thing you know, I was really screwed. But if I went into bankruptcy and foreclosure, I couldn't get into the military because the job I wanted to go into, I needed a top secret clearance. And they don't allow people with top secret clearance to have bankruptcy or foreclosures against them because we're going to sell government secrets.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So my one option to provide for my family, making $36,000 a year. I had to leave to go make $36,000 a year. I was making more than almost 4 times that a year earlier, right? But that was the only option I had. So I knew enough about real estate at that time to look into a real estate investment. This is how my journey started into real estate investing. I couldn't wholesale deals. I was looking on the MLS. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, all right, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into the military. I got to figure something out. I got to save my family. I was in desperation mode. So I called a local real estate investor who's actually still on my buyers list today. He came out and said, hey, I can short sale your house. I've worked with this mortgage company before. They're a freaking pain in the ass. They're really tough, but I have successfully short sold on the house. I can help you out of this situation. If I get a short sale, I can still go into the military. I have no foreclosure or bankruptcy. Short sale won't prevent me from going into the military. I'm like, this is fantastic. But also during that time, legally, he could buy certain things from us. We weren't allowed to profit from a short sale, but he could buy our washer and dryer from us. He could buy our pool, our shed, and like a refrigerator, stuff like that. And it was like $500 here, $700. But then that money literally was food on the table for my family, clothes for my kids who desperately needed because they were growing so fast. It was actually Christmas gifts one year because I couldn't even provide Christmas gifts for my family, right? So all this thing happened. This guy came in, short sold my house, gave us some much needed money, allowed us to go to our next place with the help of my in-laws at the time, and gave me a reset button in life. And at that point, I left my family for 6 months, went into the military at 33, almost 34 years old, literally months before the age cutoff, went into basic training with a bunch of 17-year-old kids, getting yelled at by 24-year-olds. My nickname was Gramps, and I was on my face doing push-ups because some kid who doesn't even know how to shave is fucking up again, right? And I'm like, what did I get myself into? Yeah. But it actually was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It allowed, as selfish as it sounds, that 6 months away allowed me to get out of my depression, allowed me to focus on myself, build confidence up, and get back at it. I was in the Air National Guard, so after 6 months, I came back home, got divorced with my wife now. So I'm a divorced guy after this. I get myself into a sales job again, start building myself back up to 6 figures, and now I'm a divorced dad with 2 kids, and I'm approaching 40. And at this point in time, I'm starting to get the entrepreneurial bug. Now podcasts are around. I'm traveling the country, listening to podcasts, thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And as I'm turning 40, I'm starting to see people older than me starting to lose their jobs from corporate America left and right. And I'm like, I don't want to go through this again. I went through it as a kid. I already went through it in my 30s. I don't want to be in my 40s thinking my kids are getting ready to go to college. And all of a sudden, the company sells. And then I was scared to death of that.
Right.
So I learned about wholesaling from the great Tom Kroll in the Wholesaling podcast. And after about a year of being afraid of pulling the trigger, I decided one day, I said, fuck it, I'm going to go for it. And I had no money, but I felt as wholesaling, because I didn't know you could use other people's money in real estate. So I'm like, well, I can't afford to flip houses. I can't buy rentals, but if I can learn how to wholesale, at least I can get at the lowest barrier of entry. And then I can decide what I want to do with it from there. That was my mindset. But I didn't know how to join the coaching program. So I took a bold move at 39 years old, and I sold my townhouse because that was the only thing that I had. It had $17,000 of equity in it that I bought from a couple of years earlier. I paid off $6,000 in credit card debt. I paid $5,000 for a coaching program with Tom Kroll and Wholesaling. I spent $6,000 for my contracts, my initial marketing. And in January 2017, at 40 years old, I started my wholesale business. I moved my family into this crappy 2-bedroom apartment in not such a good area, and I burned the boats. I was all in, and went on to do 10 deals that first year. Screwed up a whole bunch of times going through, but since then, we've gone on to do over 400 off-market deals, and we have a portfolio and everything else. So that's kind of my journey.
Nice. Okay, I want to hit thank you for giving us the full picture there. I want to hit the rewind button real quick and talk about some of the fuck-ups along the way. All right. So early on, let's go before real estate, when we're talking printer sales and everything like that. Yeah. As a young salesman, right? Because anybody listening that's maybe just getting into sales, wholesaling is sales, right?
100%.
I'm sure
what are some of those early fuck ups from the sales game that you can remember? Some things, maybe it's, just different approaches or not having a process or anything like that. What fuck ups did you have in your early sales game?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I didn't have a great structure to my day, right? I didn't realize the power of the follow up.
Yeah.
And, I was always passionate about personal development, but I didn't, when I was early in my sales career, I wish I spent more time working on my sales skills than I did later on. I had some success, but it kind of came somewhat naturally to me. And I just kind of learned, but I didn't have any mentors in my life at that time. I was kind of just learning as I went. If I could go back now, I would have found a mentor and I would have spent more time on personal development. And I would have went in every day with a game plan rather than just showing up at the office, fucking around with some guys for a few hours and going out cold calling. But the good thing about that business was I had to knock on a lot of doors. It was like, basically I had to generate new business to business. And, that isn't for the faint of heart, trying to get past the secretaries and gatekeepers every single day. You get told no all the time. And that's, that worked really well for me when I got into the wholesaling, because there was a lot of no's there too. But, all I knew is that's what you do in everything, So,
yeah, okay. But you had to have some kind of like suave or finesse that you finally figured out how to get past those gatekeepers, because some of those secretaries, they're no joke. So, like, what was your in? Do you have like a moment where you're just like,
my Boston accent, No, I've always just been really, I guess because I moved around so a lot as a kid, I was forced to be very like social, and I am a very social person. So it's easy for me to just talk to strangers. And I've always just been very nice and outgoing. So, if somebody's even rude as a gatekeeper, I'm very kind to them. And a lot of times I can wear them down just by being nice. And, I believe in the philosophy of kill people with kindness. I don't want to, as much as they can be rude and jerks and you want to say things, being kind, their guard will go down a little bit, right? And then they'll open up to you. And when you're working with distressed sellers, it's the same thing, right? So you go into somebody's house, they don't freaking know you from a hole in the wall. And now you've got to get them to open up about something very vulnerable, like I'm in depression, I'm facing bankruptcy, I can't provide for my family. I'm going to tell a complete total stranger that, right? I need to kill them with kindness so they take their guard down, know that I'm not coming in there to fight them over a negotiation battle. I'm actually there to help and provide some value.
Yeah. And we're doing right now. So we're doing very similar direct to seller acquisitions, have the team built out and everything. And we're completely virtual. So there's no belly to belly aspect of it.
Yeah.
I find that it's incredibly challenging to get that true motivation, that real vulnerability out of them without being there to be that, like, just that friend, that resource to them in that situation. So yeah.
And a friend is something that we talk about a lot in our business and coaching program. And we are the belly to belly model. That's what works for us. I've tried virtual. I sucked at it. And I understand the virtual model works really well. But for us, it's all about going in and being a friend, making a friend, and being a consultant. Like, hey, we may not be the right fit for you, but we're here. We're going to be a friend, try to build some trust here, try to build some truth, right? Be a truth seeker, truth teller. And then no matter what, if this doesn't work out, we're going to try to lead you in the right direction, even if that is to go with somebody else, if that's what's best. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Love it.
So, Jeremy, I'm curious, what you said you did 10 wholesale deals that first year. I'm assuming you were basically solo at that time, right? Figuring it out on your own. What does your team look like now, and kind of how did that transition happen?
Oh, man, you could have asked me a week ago. We just had 3 people leave my team.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Okay. So as of a week ago, it's okay. Like,
no, it's fine.
You're still not doing
I don't really care about the size of the team or anything like that. None of that stuff matters for me. For my first year, really, it was like myself, because I was working my first 3 years of business, I worked a full-time job. Yeah. And I got married to my now wife during that time. We blended 5 kids at that time. We also moved 3 times in 2 years with the 5 kids, all while starting my real estate business. And I was traveling for my job.
What'd you do with your free time?
Yeah, I had free time. What? I went on appointments with my free time.
Right.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And, as you can see, I paid the dues for it, but totally worth it. So my wife was working, my girlfriend at the time was working, or friend/girlfriend at the time was working a full-time job. It wasn't until that end of that first year she came on and started working with me. I convinced her to quit a job. We started going on appointments as a tandem that second year, but that first year, it was me just squeezing in, appointments nights and weekends and stuff like that. It was a complete shit show. But today, we've had great success in Western New York. We've had moderate success in Wichita, Kansas. We failed miserably in Las Vegas. But today we have a New Hampshire team and a Florida team. We have the great Dan Toback, who's the brother of Tom Kroll and Todd Toback, who's a master acquisition specialist who's done over 600 acquisitions himself personally in the last 10 years. He's our acquisition guy in Florida. We have a VA that kind of helps him out. We just hired a acquisition guy that was working alongside with him for a couple months. He didn't work out. He just left. Up here in New Hampshire, we have Eddie DiLorenzo, who's our acquisition guy. He's been with us for 4.5 years. He's really our first acquisition guy. He's the one who replaced me in the business. We have like a business manager. We have a disposition manager up here and a bunch of VAs. We just actually, as of today, cut ways with our other acquisition guy who's been with us for a year and a half, wasn't working out mutually. We're just one acquisition guy in each team. Up here in New Hampshire, we average somewhere between 35 and 45 houses a year. Florida, we average about 40 to 50. Last year wasn't the greatest year, but overall we still did 77 deals. We're hoping to do more this year. We'll see what happens.
Nice. Did you guys, were you guys doing a lot of texting?
Listen, in 2019, 2020, I love texting, man. I was making a freaking killing off of texting. We don't do texting anymore.
Yeah, us either. Yeah.
No, we do ringless voicemail. We do direct mail. We do PPC, SEO. We just started working with Jeremy Resmer with his, he's out of Tennessee, but he has a TV, but it's a streaming TV ad. So we actually upload distressed lists and they just stream it to those houses. So if they're watching Peacock or Hulu or something like that and a commercial comes on, we're one of those people. We like that rather than the traditional because it's more direct. We don't like to take broad, like a billboard or anything like that, broad marketing channels. We like to be very direct and go right after distress.
Oh, that's smart. So you're also renovating properties and keeping properties. So I'm assuming you also have property or project management and
So
of your property management or did you outsource?
You want to know about making mistakes, Marie?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's talk about flipping. When my wife and I flipped our first house, we called Empire Direct to do our floors. That's about how much we knew about flipping houses, right? We've always just failed forward. That's all I've ever done. Massive and perfect action. I've invested, $250,000 over the years in coaching, but they can only teach you so much. Sometimes you just have to, you got to
learn. You got to do it.
Learn. I've read hundreds of books too, but you have to take action. So nobody told me not to use Empire Direct. I didn't freaking know. So I called them, right? So that's what you know. So we've made a lot of mistakes flipping over the years. Fortunately, during that time, I was actually talking about that to one of my students today, was the market's always been up and to the right. So I said, there's been times where, we totally friggin' screwed up on a flip, but all we had to do is wait 2 or 3 months and the market bailed us out. That isn't the case anymore as of 2023. So you have to be really good. But we have our disposition manager. He actually wears a couple hats. He's our realtor, dispo manager. He's also our project manager. He's very construction savvy. I am not. My wife, really handles all the decor and the style of the house and all that. To me, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really do anything.
You're crunching the numbers.
No, I have somebody else for that. I do content. I'm like, I'm looking at you guys. I what's a header? I don't really know. It looks great. My wife says this is what we're going to do in the kitchen. Let's just do it, please. And she knows what it sells. I don't. I know how to buy houses really low. I guess that's where I'm good at.
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, we're flipping. It's really, really tough. And, even with some rentals, we made a lot of mistakes. In 2020, we were buying rentals, man, and we got crushed with bad property managers. I had 2 property managers that probably cost me, $50,000 in losses that year between constant evictions and, people not getting paid and just, vacancies. And, that's in my real estate career, improperly hiring property managers has probably been my biggest mistake. It's cost me the most amount of money. I know how to vet good property managers now. But I mean, I lost tons of money during that time, but thankfully I live in the Northeast, and every year the houses are just, the equity goes out the window up, just out of control. So the equity has bailed me out. But, there's some times where I was like, I don't know if I want to be a buy and hold investor.
Yeah.
Well, so I feel like we owe it to the listeners here, right? You just dropped a massive bomb that was one of the biggest mistakes that you've made. So can we kind of unpack that a little bit? Like,
sure.
What are some of the things that you do now to prevent those things?
Yeah. So, rather than just getting like a referral and, somebody saying, oh, I've used them and then be good, and then just doing it, I vet them out a lot. I get recommendations. I talk to other, clients that they have, now that I have experience being a buy and hold investor, what are your scenarios in this situation, right? How long are you holding your client tenants, and like how long is the turnover? I don't want tenants leaving every single year, because that makes me lose money, right?
Yeah.
And how do you vet your tenants out? So I guess I'm just more diligent in that. Kind of like if you were to hire somebody for your team, you want to hire slow and fire fast. Same with property management. The first two were like, oh, these people are great, right? And I'm like, all right, sounds good. Let's sign up. And next thing you know, I'm like losing money left and right. And we just put a tenant in, and it's the first month and I'm already not getting paid. I'm like, how does that happen? You guys just signed a lease, and month one, I'm not getting paid. Well, there were, and it just ended up being something. Both of those property management companies aren't in business anymore.
Wow.
They did not survive post-COVID.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those things like, 2023 weeded out a lot of the, hustlers in the wholesale business, right? Anybody who can text and cold call is now a wholesaler and can just get a list and start texting, right?
Yeah.
Now with the texting regulations gone, now you actually have to run a professional company and be direct mail or some other professional marketing channel, right? I mean, you can cold call, but most people won't last 6 to 8 weeks cold calling because it sucks. So you have to have some kind of professional marketing program, or have the money to hire a cold calling person or company. And I think, what we found out during that time of COVID, a lot of those people were really, were forced to see that they weren't good. The market was always forgiving up until 2020. There was a lot of money given out during 2020, but after that, things changed, at least up here from my experience. Those companies are gone.
Yeah. No, we see it. I mean, across the board, I think with most of the areas that I'm in, I see just like the one-off wholesalers, the guys like you said that were just kind of hustling through it and maybe not operating with the most integrity or had the most sophisticated systems in place. They're just gone. You don't see them anymore.
Yeah. And, and same with flipping. With the high interest rates of 2023, we didn't flip any houses in 2023. Honestly, I was scared shitless. I was afraid. I just saw people getting money stuck, and I didn't want to do that to myself or my private lenders. I was scared. So we made a lot less money in 2023, but we survived. Now the market in 2024 here is pre 2023 in the high interest rates, and we're selling houses like crazy. So, it's back to business as usual. And we're flipping a bunch of projects right now as we speak.
Well, I think people are just getting, like, the idea is finally sinking in that, like, the 2020 interest rate's not coming back.
Never.
And that you had the people that were like, oh, I'm holding out. The reality's starting to set in. They're starting to realize, okay, we're in the game.
It's a new norm, right? And, and if you study real estate, 7% has been like the average for like the last 50 years. So that's nothing unusual. Our families were buying houses in the 80s. They were paying 15, 18, 20%, right? And investors were making money back then. So, if you can make it in today's day and age, you'll be good to go. I do anticipate the rates to go down. I think we all do. But, if we even hit the fives again, I think we'll be blessed to see that. And that might be a stretch.
Yeah.
Especially commercial rates.
Yeah. So you mentioned it a couple times. Tell us a little about your coaching program now. Obviously, you guys have grown and have a lot of experience. You've made your own mistakes, and now you have your own coaching program, right?
Yeah, so our coaching program now is really about the sales skills with regards to off-market acquisitions. You know, we were very successful up in Western New York, home buyers, prior to us leaving there and before 2023. I had a rockstar acquisition guy up there, I had my rockstar acquisition guy here in New Hampshire. And both of these guys have done well over 100 deals at this point, and this was in 2022. And I was like, I couldn't teach them anymore, right? I taught them everything I knew, but I didn't know how to get them better. And I'm just a firm believer, like, you always got to be getting better, right? You got to be learning and growing, learning and growing. So I started like looking out to be like, who could teach these guys for acquisitions and get better? And I started like this search across the country and all these coaches, and I just couldn't find anybody. Everybody could teach you how to wholesale. There's a lot of wholesaling companies out there and Sub2 and all this other stuff, which I've done all of that. Yeah. But there was nobody really could teach my guys who've already done 100 deals how to get better. And after searching, basically it led me back to Tom Kroll. Tom Kroll said, hey, you should talk to my brother, Dan. And I actually talked to Dan at this time. He's like, well, yeah, I've done over 500 acquisitions over the last 8 or 9 years. He worked under Todd Toback and Tom Kroll, two, very successful investors that in their own right. So he just had a lot of experience. So we brought him on as a coach to coach my guys internally. And I was paying him thousands of dollars every month to be a coach for my guys. And my guy in New York went from 45 deals in 1 year up to 78 the following year as a result of coaching under Dan. The guy did 78 deals himself as a solo acquisition guy. It was just crazy. And Eddie just went through the roof, and our numbers per deal were growing. And that's when we decided to bring Dan on as a part of our company. We ended up closing New York because, no offense to anybody listening to New York sucks. Sorry.
It was a hard place, but I started my real estate career there, and I'm telling you, it led me to be much better because, like you said, when you were selling and you were getting a lot of freaking no's, right? Like, it is hard convincing people, even walking into somebody's house in New York and trying to get them to sell you their house. They don't trust you. New Yorkers don't trust anybody.
That's for sure. We did over 150 acquisitions and did a couple of 7-figure years up there. But it's an attorney state, and working with attorneys is very complex. We have a buyer with an attorney, seller with an attorney. We have an attorney. Everybody wants to just make something. It would take really, 60 to 90 days to just do cash transactions up there. It was a joke. So we decided to just make money elsewhere because it would be easier. So we went to Florida, title state. Florida's a state that I've been wanting to work in a long time. So we closed that. And with that, Dan he had a skill set that I felt it was just very needed. So we opened up the REI Freedom Coaching Program. We work with companies like Jason, who has an acquisition team to teach their guys to get better. We work with newbies, but we're really, focused on, we teach the basics of the marketing and stuff like that, but we're really focused on the acquisition skills, right? So most people take an average of 50 to 60 leads to get one deal, right? And if they get really good, maybe they do 40 or 30, right? We want to teach people to take those 60 leads and, rather than doing a one deal conversion, get them to do 3 deals with the same 60 leads, right? And there's a skill set that comes with that, right? Because you're dealing with distressed people. They don't make good decisions. That's why a lot of them get in their situations. Habitual procrastinators, world's caving in on them, they're hiding under rocks. There's a sales skills that goes into overcoming those objections, negotiation of pricing, getting them to not ghost you, and all the other nuances that go into that, getting them to trust you like I had to with that guy who short sold my house years ago, to provide me that certainty and be a friend and be a consultant and all that stuff. So we're very heavily focused on that. And, our students, they're doing great. We're relatively a new coaching program, but so far we've had a lot of great success in it. And we're very passionate about that aspect, because that's all I've ever focused my business on. It was getting better at the acquisition skill side. You buy right, man. Everything else happens great on the back end.
Yeah. And honestly, I love your story, Jeremy. And I'm sure you've used your story, right? Connecting with sellers. Like, you've been through it as a kid. You've been through it as an adult. Like, that's some credibility on your side as well, that, you know what foreclosure is like, what it looks like to have to short sale your own house and go through that depression. So I really appreciate you being vulnerable on that and talking about that. And like I said, I'm sure it's helped you build some rapport with sellers because you know what it's like.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'd love to share my story because a lot of people think that, there's a certain mindset, what it takes to become successful in real estate. And hey, yeah, I guess I'm good at talking to people, but I was just a troubled kid who didn't graduate high school, who got arrested a bunch of times. I went through bankruptcy and depression. I had everything falling against me, but I just kept pushing forward. And really, that's real estate in general, right? It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a long-term thing. You're going, even if you want to start a wholesaling business, you have to be willing to commit a solid year of building a foundation of something special, because that's what it's going to take. And there's going to be a lot of times where you're like, this sucks. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to run out of money. There's a lot of gut check moments, but you have to keep persevering and pivoting and getting better. I have this Rocky thing, right? Everybody know the Rocky quote from the Rocky Five. It's not how hard you get punched in the face. It's about how many times you can get up and keep punching. And that's what you got to do in real estate. And that's what you got to do in life. And that served me well. It's gotten me to where I am anyway.
Yeah. I love it. All right, Jake, you got any last questions?
Come on, Jake, give me something. Let's go.
Ooh, all right. Final question here. You're talking to the hottest lead of the week, and then they ghost you. What's your go-to strategy? What do you say to them? Give me a what's the message?
We leave them a message saying, it sounds like you've gone in a different direction. If you could just let me know so I can go and pursue other deals. We have a couple nuances of that, but basically we pull away and just say, hey, it looks like you've gone in a different direction. Then all of a sudden we get the text right away. No, I still want to talk to you. When things get real, people get scared. But when they realize the person, nobody likes to be sold, right? But as soon as you pull away, they chase you. We call it the chasing dog. If you chase a dog turns around and runs. As soon as you stop and run away, the dog turns around and chases you, right? Yeah. That's how you have to approach sales in the off-market acquisition business.
Love it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great golden nugget. That's it. That's going to be part of your sales training tomorrow morning, Jake. I know it. He's going to be on the team, on with the team.
Don't be the chasing dog.
This is what Jeremy taught us. Anyway, I really appreciate it, Jeremy. It was a pleasure kind of getting to know you, hearing your story. Absolutely. I really think that this is going to be a good one. A lot of people are going to walk away with some good insights from this episode. So I, again, just appreciate you being on the podcast. And as I'm about to wrap up and close it, just real quick, how do people get in touch with you if they want to be part of your coaching program or follow you?
Join REI Freedom Group on Facebook. You don't even have to join our coaching program. Come there. I'm about to do a live after this podcast to give good advice every day. We want to help people get better. You don't have to join a coaching program. We'd love you to, but you don't have to. REI Freedom on Facebook. Please go join the Facebook group.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.